So with working over 100 businesses, the biggest thing that we find is a major issue that is super overlooked in the industry is product market fit. Product market fit is making sure that the product and the service that you are offering and selling to your market is actually aligned and fits within what your market is actually looking to purchase and invest in. What we actually help you in this video is understanding if your service is fitting the market that you're advertising to.
The ultimate place to begin when you are looking to make sure you can scale, that you will scale, the number thing to do to make sure you know how to scale a company is product market fit. So if you don't have anything that anyone wants, you're not going to be able to scale. If there's only 100 people who can buy what you have to sell, you're not going to be able to scale. So there are a few things to look at that I've seen even Fortune 500 companies get wrong on occasion. And that is they do not approach, analyze, identify, and reach markets well because they just don't follow a sound framework for reviewing them, learning about them, et cetera. So the main four things are when you're trying to find a market for your product or you're trying to find a product for a market is, can you find the people in that market easily? So yes, maybe a billionaire segment is interesting for a lot of different types of products and services, but let's say they're fairly elusive. So it doesn't matter if there's a lot of them. It doesn't matter if they have a good budget. It doesn't matter if they're desperate for your solution. If you can't find them to reach out to them, to put ads in front of them, it doesn't matter. So the first thing is, can you find them? The second thing is, are there enough of them? So there's a lot of misconceptions with TAM where people think, oh, I think I've capped out the market. Oh, I don't think there's enough customers to scale, what have you. Alex Ramosi is over here targeting micro gyms, and the guy, his company scaled to the moon. I mean, it was doing millions and millions in revenue, and that market is tiny. So chances are, if you think the TAM is your problem, it's probably not. The third thing is, do they have money? So yes, on paper, let's say you have a job finding guide where you're targeting people who are unemployed to teach them how to build a resume, what have you. Yes, there's a lot of them. Yes, it's a growing market. Yes, they're desperate and have the need, but they have no money. So they're not going to want to pay you high ticket for this great big course, right?
And be harder for fulfillment. The lower budget they have, the more operational costs that they usually incur.
Yes. So can you find them? Or do they have the money to pay you with? Do they have a desperate need? So you can come out with this incredible marketing system, marketing software. Let's think of like Google Glass or, one of those augmented reality things that they came out with back in the day. Really interesting technology, presumably has a lot of applications. Nobody really wanted it. So it was kind of a flop. So that applies to a lot of different things. We can't assume what people want to buy. We have to validate it by speaking directly to them with actual outreach, with test sales, try to sell the thing before you build it, etc.
Yeah, having an MVP before you get funding, hire engineers and devs and build something that no one wants. Interrogating your market is going to save you a lot of time, energy, and stress. Just simply reach out to the people that you want to sell your product to, network with them. Don't hard sell them, more so just get an understanding of, if you built this, would they need it or buy it? That's going to help you tremendously in your beginning processes of scaling a company.
Yeah, so there's a great book on this specifically called The Mom Test. And despite the silly name, it covers the idea that it's really difficult to get honest, objective feedback on a product or service in terms of its validity. So let's say you go and ask your mom, hey, mom, I painted this thing. Do you like it? And she's going to say, oh, yeah, Jimmy, it's beautiful. And in reality, it's the ugliest thing anyone's ever seen. And so if you ask people like, oh, hey, is this a good idea? Yada, yada. They're going to say yes, but does that mean they'll pull out their wallet to buy it? No. So that is why a lot of times we actually want to run display ads or send a lot of emails and such, trying to get people to actually go to a landing page to buy something, and even just to see if they will buy it actually. And then, obviously then you got to make the product, but or refund their money since you don't actually have the product to build them, but you've proven you can sell it, right? So in summary, are there enough enough of them? Can you find them? Do they have a budget? And then do they have a desperate need for the product? So now let's go into perhaps the positioning and the specificity aspect of things. So
specificity is huge.
Yeah, Dylan, how many people have you seen with a headline that says something like, "Yeah, I grow businesses"?
95% of people tell you what they do, but they don't tell you specifically what they do, who they do it for, and what are the expected results of working with them. Because you have probably 30 seconds for time on page, and your headline is the most important thing. It's what gets their attention, what's going to keep their attention. And if what you're saying at the top of that landing page or that website, they don't understand it fully, they're just going to continue going on their merry way. They probably went on your website because you took 15 emails. And now once you do all that time, energy, and effort to get them there, now you're going to have a lazy call to action, a lazy headline. Like, you have to make sure that everything is sound throughout your funnel.
So think about Nike, right? Nike sells a commodity. They sell sneakers. They're cheap to make. There's really nothing particularly different about Nike shoes versus Reeboks, right? So what does Nike do? They position themselves as the shoe of athletes. They celebrate athletes. You think about the original computers. Okay, so we had these big room computers. Then we went to, okay, now there's computers for businesses. So that was a separate position. Then it was, okay, now we've got Apple. Now we have a personal computer. Okay, that's great. And then they said, okay, we have phones. This is a mobile computer, right? And then not only did we have phones, we had phones with touch screens. That's another position. Okay, now we have not only phones with touchscreens, but now we have folding phones with touchscreens, which you can argue about is whether or not that's really an interesting position to take. So maybe that's an example of trying to differentiate just to be differentiated. Is that really enough of an appeal, right? But the point being, if the original creators of the personal computer, I can't remember if it was Apple, right, that came out with the first personal computer. Yeah. So
the letter I.
Yeah.
iMac.
Yeah. So if they just said, yeah, we sell computers, right, no one would have cared. They're like, people already make those, right? There's nothing revolutionary about that. So specificity really helps. So that could be you narrow in on a niche and really a sub niche. In a lot of cases, it's not enough anymore to just go after a niche. For example, take again Alex Hormozy, who's a great person to model after. He didn't go after just gyms. He went after micro gyms. So if you say that you are looking for, or let's take, for example, let's say you are a 6'8", basketball player who likes fishing, and somebody fills out like a dating survey that they're really looking for a 6'8" guy a basketball player who likes fishing. You're going to feel like that person is a much better fit for you than if they just said, yeah, I like people who play basketball, right? So weird analogy, I know, but the same thing applies. So I get asked the same question over and over and over again on sales calls. They say, okay, but how do I know this works in my industry, right? And so you have a huge leg up on the sales process and also on the operational side, where if you double down on one sub niche, now all your SOPs are for that sub niche, all your sales scripts are for that sub niche, all of your
social proof.
Yes, all your social proof is for that sub niche. So the testimonials, they'll speak in such a way that resonates with the other people in an industry because they use the same words. They say them the same way, right?
And that even helps with like your sales process. So if you're understanding their pain points as a business, if you're super sub niche, their exact pain points, and it's going to resonate much easier. That's going to increase your booking rate. That's going to increase your sales, shorten your sales cycle because you're speaking directly to one person. And if you have, like you said, we help businesses scale, it's too ambiguous and people will disqualify themselves before even having a conversation with you where you can actually sell that. You actually do help this person. When they read what you do, it might be too general and then be like, that might not be for me, and then continue looking. And then your competitor who directly says that they work with that exact avatar will actually get the sale over you.
Yeah, they'll say they're more of a specialist. And even so maybe this is a opportune moment to plug the fact that I'm about to hit 10,000 Twitter followers from zero after about 5 months of being on the platform. My growth skyrocketed after I switched from being the B2B growth guy to being being the LinkedIn guy. So there's a lesson in there, but let's go back to that thing where you said it's going to be easier to tailor the language even on the sales page and things like that. People think it's sort of an additive approach where you get a 10% better sales page and then you get 10% more sales. No, you get 0 sales until such time as the page is good enough that it actually feels like it's speaking to them. And then when you really get it locked down and you cover every single objection they can possibly have and you address it on the sales page and you bury them in proof, suddenly you cross a threshold where you just blow up in sales. It's not so additive. And so doubling down is not okay, we're going to target half as many people and get 2 times as many sales. It's we're going to target, let's say 10% as many people, and we're going to get 100 times more sales and charge 10 times as much. So anyways, the final step on this thing is really just when we say interrogate the market, what we mean is so let's take the example of wheels on the luggage. I love this example because it highlights how overcomplicated and difficult that we make things for ourselves. So in the early 1940s, we invented the atomic bomb, a miracle of scientific ingenuity, right? We didn't put wheels on luggage until 30 years later. Think about this. We had already invented the wheel at the dawn of civilization. We had little stone wheels back in the Flintstones, right?
I did not know this, about.
Okay, yeah. So you could literally smash atoms together and create a massive fission reaction that could blow up an entire city, megaton bombs. And we didn't think, oh, maybe we can roll this thing that carries our stuff, right? And so if you had just asked somebody who was in charge of, being a personal assistant or, helping the family carry their things, you would ask them, hey, is there anything we could do that would make your job easier? How do you feel about the luggage? And they're like, I hate this. It's super heavy. My arms are dying by the end of the day. I have arm pain, right? You thought, oh, here's an obvious problem that we can fix. But if instead you just thought, oh, you know what? They're struggling to get all this stuff there in time. What if we made a bigger suitcase, right? And you just assumed that that's what they wanted because they were having trouble getting enough stuff there. Now they hate it even more, right? And one of my favorite examples of this was Jeff Bezos on one of his most famous interviews, where they were struggling with the packing. And everybody was having, pain and their backs were hurting and, because they were packing these boxes on the floor, Jeff Bezos sort of endearingly joked, oh, we should get knee pads, right? And then one of his employees followed up and said, no, Jeff, we need folding tables. What do you mean knee pads? Right. And so it's really important. You just have a human-to-human conversation, not surveys. Nobody wants to fill out a survey. If you just talk to them,
lazy.
Yeah. It's the more distant you get from them, the less clear you're going to get on what it is they actually care about, because the tone of their voice when they say something is almost more important than what they actually rate things. Right. So
it also shows that you care to your customers. Like you're taking the time and energy out of your company to understand them as the customer, right? They spent money to invest in your product or service. Like treat them as such. Don't just send them a survey lazily, because the people who fill out surveys are most likely not the people that you want to get feedback from. Either they don't like you, they're angry, they didn't have their coffee this morning, or they're just serial people who write surveys. So actually maybe targeting your 5 biggest clients, right? Understand what they would like or what they don't like about your product or service, and then iterate based off of your actual people who pay you.
So some sample questions might be, why did you choose us? What do you love most about us? If you were to recommend us to somebody else, what is the biggest selling point that you would mention? Are there any things that bother you about us? Do you ever find something taking too long or being too annoying or having too much friction?
In a perfect world, what would our software do for you?
Yes.
What would our service do for you? Like make it a hypothetical, like if all things are possible, what would you want us to do? That's going to really open up the creativity.
And finally, if you could only keep one feature of our product or service, what would you keep?
I like that.